Yeah, a lot of that's simply based around how the Macintosh development had been done within the organization. We had a very successful relationship with an external contractor who, while originally he was a student at Berkeley, later went on to work for NASA. And there was always a period of time. We've decided to make the full commitment. We'd always been releasing our products. If you look at our internal Macintosh products, the history really goes back almost 6-7 years, and actually to date there are only 2 of our products that haven't been released for the Macintosh. And actually, if you look at the next 3 to 6 months, I think we're going to see a very exciting time. I think it means quite a bit. I think that as much as and as long as we've been developing for the Macintosh, that certainly the boost in horsepower is just, it's every programmer's dream. It's combines a great development environment, a great set of tools for developing, the horsepower that I think is going to take us certainly into the next 5 to 10 years of Macintosh development, and then just doors opening up even more with certainly the next round of machines that Apple's in the process of announcing. They just look phenomenal. I think and they've got a great history behind them, a great tradition of providing excellent products. Oh, every platform has its pros and cons. I would say right now, one of the things that always seems to hit us a little bit is a little bit on the performance side is music. That what we're trying to do on a Macintosh these days is effectively a full synthesizer. If you look on the other platforms that are available, the IBM PC, even in the Amigas provided the user with, say, 4 DMA-driven digital audio channels that really didn't take much processor. They didn't take much processor use. The PC is, when you go out and you purchase an add-on sound card for $100 or more, you have the ability to drive G-MIDI or MIDI channels or even wavetable synthesis channels. And that's a case where the hardware is actually providing you with the capability. On the Macintosh, we effectively want to give the game player the equivalent playing experience with full wavetable synthesis, but we're having to solve that problem through software. And what that's doing is it's taking what I'll call a significant percentage of the CPU away from the game and having to focus it strictly on sound. So certainly the sound area is one area I'd like to see even more emphasis being placed on.
Mac specific on Dark Forces. In a few words, it's 16-bit sound and high-res graphics. The 16-bit sound is particularly significant in that because on the Macintosh you basically have to emulate a MIDI card, which you get for free on the PC, apart from programming work. It's doing a lot of, the more channels you mix into a digital stream, the more horrible the sound sounds. And previous games like Indie Fate of Atlantis, I think, had reached the limits of mixing an 8-bit sound. I mean, you can still do it, and it sounds okay, but it's just not. You're just really starting to lose something once you get above this. And for Dark Forces, we really wanted to mix, 16 MIDI channels and 8 digital sound channels, and the resolution loss of just doing a straight mixing in 8-bit is really bad. So we felt it was really important to support 16-bit sound, and there's really a huge difference, and it's supported on all the new machines, or any machine that can support it. And of course stereo sound is supported as well, so we're really throwing a lot of sound data around. The other major innovation is the high-res graphics, and some of the high-res graphics you get for free, like the loading screen and the heads-up displays, are always in high-res, which is kind of a nice thing. But on the Power Mac specifically, you can run and render at the full resolution, up to 640/400, and run it at a pretty decent frame rate. We worked very hard with Aric Klein and the Apple developers at the Games Kitchen in Austin to get Power Mac speeds as high as we can in high-res mode, and I think we came off pretty well. Dark Forces is obviously in the class of the post-Doom games, and everybody's got to separate themselves out somehow. There's a few really great innovations in Dark Forces that make it a lot of fun to play. There's a lot more freedom of movement. In Doom, you had your just straight movement. In other games, you had the ability to look in different directions as well. Dark Forces adds to that mix the ability to crouch and jump, and it's used in the game. There are areas where you have to jump around, or you have to crouch underneath certain ledges, and it actually becomes an important part of the game and a useful part of the game too. It makes it more realistic. A lot of times you're frustrated in Doom by, God, I just wish I could jump up on that crate rather than, it's not that high. But the Dark Forces, you don't. It makes it more realistic in that you have the extra freedom of movement there. Another important thing in Dark Forces is the levels. The levels are extremely extensive, very complex. There's a lot of outdoors stuff in the levels which you don't see in some of the other games. A lot of very nice visual architecture and the level designers really did a tremendous job in putting together coherent levels that maintain their look and feel across the entire level and really seem to be separate worlds. I mean, each time you go to a different level, you really feel like you're in a different world, and that's really important. In addition to that, we added basically a small 3D engine inside there, a true 3D engine with real polygons and that. And you see that in several places. You see ships that you can actually walk around. You'll see TIE fighters flying out of the hangars and really dynamic environments that way. And it really adds to the realism. And even some of the creatures, like the little mouse bots running around, are nice garo-shaded polygons that straight out of X-Wing or something, and it looks looks really nice and adds an extra depth to the game. And of course, there's a lot of interaction with the environment, a lot of switches and controls, and it's very puzzle oriented in addition to just being a shoot 'em up type game. And I think that the mix of the two is really an important. It's really an important way to bring the game separated apart from just Doom type straight shoot 'em ups.
Why are we doing the Mac version of X-Wing now? I think it's pretty simple, actually, that the technical capabilities of the Mac platforms has reached a point where they're really exciting. Really fundamentally, it's the Power PC. It offers the price performance that I think is pretty equivalent to what the PC gamers and what's been available in sort of PC hardware for a number of years. And since I can kind of give you the long or the short answer, and I'll just keep talking until you think I've given you enough. But given sort of the resolution of the Macintosh being a sort of a high-res based platform, it requires a processor that's sort of capable of pushing a lot more pixels than has been typical in the PC world. PC world sort of standard resolution has been 320, 200, 256 color mode, so that's 64,000 pixels to put out per frame, where that low res is not something you really want to have long term anyway for a game experience. And it's not available on the Mac, that low res thing. And being sort of a desktop based machine where high res has always been sort of an important element of that hardware, for whatever reason, it's high res based. And the Power PC processors, RISC chips, really are exciting because they provide enough power so that we can create an experience that really lives up to what was sort of an original design, or original intentions of building the product in the first place. We tend to emphasize speed, fluidness of the graphics as one of our sort of preeminent features that we want to design for and create, because I think that will pay off in a great experience. So I think we sort of arrived at a point where the Power PC enables us to deliver the kind of experience. So that's sort of the short answer. Well, I think it dips into the phenomenon, one of the biggest phenomenons in the last, say, 30 years in entertainment, and obviously that's the Star Wars movies. And I think what's particular about X-Wing is that it connects with the dream of so many moviegoers that grew up, you know, watching and rewatching the movies over and over again, that became embedded in our culture, to be the hero, to be Luke Skywalker, to, you know, battle for the underdogs against the evil, you know, giant, you know, empire. So it's sort of a classic story element that I think was realized well in the game, that puts you in that same sort of role, and you're able to, you know, fulfill those dreams that people have had for so long. So I think it's sort of embedded in you know, sort of world culture. I mean, it's probably one of the most significant, you know, story concepts, entertainment ideas that, you know, in the last, say, 25 years. I wouldn't say that's sort of understating it too much, but I think X-Wing really does pay off that dream, you know, very well, and you know, putting people in an environment where they have get completely involved and immersed in, and also have control over the outcome. You know, that sort of role-playing of what I do matters toward the big picture. You know, I'm not just a little sort of cog, a widget in the big factory, but you know, I can play a role in the bigger events and influence them. So I think that's a dream that everyone has, certainly as a game player. Well, what we've done with the Mac version of X-Wing is that we certainly have based it sort of story content-wise on the PC version, but are including all of the sort of original product plus this Tour of Duty expansion, which was Imperial Pursuit and B-Wing. So the Mac version is a CD version that will include, I think, more particularly for Mac users, high-res support. It won't be, you know, the same graphics that the PC version used, and then just sort of expanded, you know, to fill the screen to end up with a fairly blocky and crude look to it. But we're taking, and that's one of the reasons why it's sort of taking us a while, is that we have several man-years invested in the original art, and most of that has to be redone to some form or another. Such that, you know, I think Mac users will be very pleased with the look, that it won't have an IBM-ishness look to it, like a lot of sort of early attempts at getting, you know, porting stuff to the Macintosh for the IBM. That I think people that will be, you know, quite pleased that it will have its own unique look and up-to-date look for the Macintosh. Oh, what I touched upon before, it's just this horsepower, and that it's a machine that we can develop for without having to write assembly language. You know, assembly language for the Power Mac is just not something you do. You use the compilers to do that. It's too arcane a process, but you don't need to anymore. You can use the compilers to do that, which opens up an opportunity such that we can write one base of code. You know, as software developers, what we care about is writing great code and having, you know, as many machines as possible so that people can experience our products. And so that it's helpful, in fact, very important, that we can write one body of code with minor modifications for the different platforms. That allows us to sort of, you know, increase our market, reach more people. So that's sort of one of the strongest benefits that I see, sort of a convergence a little bit of, you know, IBM PC development and Power Macintosh development, in that people don't really have to decide between the two of them that much. They can actually write sort of one, you know, as I said, one body of code and support both. I think the Power Mac will need to move, you know, just like the Intel world is continuing to move, as you say, with the P6 and the P7 and, you know, onwards and onwards with, in addition to 3D graphics hardware accelerators for products like ours, which, you know, thrive and need and require 3D technology. You know, the Power Mac, Apple or other third-party developers are going to have to think about how can we continue to push. You know, one of the things that drives the IBM world is there's such a competition, and there's new products all the time, and I think that you know the Power Mac Apple side of things needs to not stay hey, we did a great job, we've got a great product. You have to continue with that, and I know they're doing that with other versions of the RISC chips, and but they also have to look at 3D hardware support,
Right.
and that will be a big help.